Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome you in here to the historic Content Fantasy Podcast with your host, Michael Della Rocca and James Ashby. Jim Williams.
And we're back! It's the Content Fantasy Podcast. I'm Michael Della Rocca. That's James Ashby. James, how you doing?
I'm doing really great, Michael. Spring is springing, the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day today. The trees are starting to bloom, and it's an indication that it is rookie season. We are in the full swing of things. We've gotten past that big first step with the combine, and now we're just looking at the draft. It's a beautiful season.
Are you're feeling that? You're feeling this rookie draft? You're feeling all
I
the
feel it.
excitement, everything? With
Yeah,
the
I feel like
combine, everything that's come around?
feel like it landed right in my lap. I really do. Really snuck up on me this year.
Well, tampering just started for free agency. So guys are moving. Next couple days, we're going to hear about dudes landed on new teams, things like that. That's going to also change the fantasy focus as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of quarterbacks floating around as well. Right? We're looking at Russ, Gunty Kirk, all floating around out there. Mac Jones rumors.
Mac Jones, I hear apparently
yeah.
Mac Jones is a star. He's a star in this league. I don't know who this Justin Fields guy is, but not
It does seem that way. Bears having
Mm.
trouble moving Fields.
where
Trouble
where
taking
did
out the trash.
so let's just get right to it here. Where, as you're a Steeler fan, the rumors on Russ,
Yeah.
let's just get started right there. You're a former Russell Wilson fantasy owner, but we won't go there. Where are you seeing Russell land?
Yeah, so as you said, I recently did move off of Russell. He had the visit with the Steelers. As you said, I am a resident Steeler fan. For me, it's time to move on from Kenny. I think the experiment is over. I'm welcoming
You're
a
also a
Russell
Kenny
Wilson.
fantasy fan as well, so
I am, in fact, a Kenny Pickett fantasy owner. That was a stand pick. I put my heart on the line for the organization, and they let me down. But it is time to
So
move on.
you're giving up on Kenny Pickett. You're willing to accept
Yeah,
Russell
the
Wilson to the
experiment's
Pittsburgh
over. I
Steelers.
mean,
You think George Pickens is worth it? You think like him willing to take the minimum contract? Like what really is there for Russell Wilson as far as like trying to grow? I think he needs to go to an offense that's like more explosive. He's been taking beatings for the last 3 years. I've said for a while, I think Atlanta is probably the best place for him. You think that the Steelers have the best like you think the Steelers are the best place for Russell?
I think Russ is ironically dangerously on that Cam Newton territory of floating out into irrelevance. And I think he needs to be smart and jump in with a successful historical organization that has some pieces in place. Certainly has a lot of building to do on the offensive side, but the culture is
Especially
there.
on the line.
Absolutely, yeah.
They only have one receiver, maybe two if everyone's healthy.
Yeah, if you assume
Najee Harris has been a bust, as you would say yourself.
not Najee's absolutely a bust for having spent a first round pick on the running back. You could have had a guy like Creed Humphrey, who I was of course calling for at the time of the draft.
And that would fix the O line, obviously. Everything would be all fixed.
It would show
Everything,
up a big hole. Yeah, they have released their center.
Matt Canada would have been successful.
Canada. We won't get too far into the Steelers. I do want to focus on these rookies and these four quarterbacks.
I want to also whoa. We got to focus more on because Kirk Cousins could be going to the Atlanta Falcons. Do you not think that's fantasy relevant to talk about before we talk about any of these rookies? Considering that, hell, Jordan Addison, who was a rookie last season, he would be affected by that. What about Justin Jefferson? What about Drake London? We love Drake London. What about Kyle Pitts? Bijan as a Bijan owner, this is more important to us. This would be the most important thing. Like, there are rumors that Justin Fields can be going to Atlanta. There are rumors Kirk Cousins could be going to Atlanta. Russell Wilson to be going to Atlanta. Or is it just all a smokescreen and it's going to be Desmond Ridder again?
I do think they move on from Desmond. It's what tends to happen with these new regimes when they come in. They want their guy. And I think fantasy wise for guys like Bijan, for Kyle Pitts, for Drizzy Drake London, as you mentioned, Kirk
Drizzy
Cousins is
Drake
the
London.
best case scenario. He's going to go in there, he's going to deal, he's going to dump it off to Bijan, and he's going to use his weapons just like he did in
Russell is
Minnesota.
just as good as dumping it off to Bijan.
That may be true, but I think Kirk Cousins is a bit more reliable at this point than Russell Wilson. We've seen the consistency from him, and that's another situation where he's going to have plenty of weapons to
Oh,
deal to.
you're right. You're right. And apparently, Kirk Cousins' wife is from that area, so there's
Oh.
mutual interest. So
And
that
now I'll ask you, as a resident, not only Drizzy Drake London owner, but also a Danger Russ owner, is that your ideal situation? Do you
the
want to see a
Falcons would
pairing?
be ideally number one for Russell to do that connection. I have Drake in many leagues. I have Russ in a couple, so I would love that stack. I don't know if that's the best place for Russ. I think he needs a little bit more of an offensive mindset. I would love actually if Kirk went to Atlanta and Russ went to Minnesota. I would be totally fine with that. Just because, like I said, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, like any quarterback that gets there, like you were talking about weapons. Even KJ Osborne might still be there, depending on they might draft people. They still got a decent line. That offense, Josh Dobbs looked good in that offense sometimes.
Yeah.
That's any they could draft a guy like that would be to me, if you want to say, if Russell Wilson wants to take a minimum and go prove it somewhere that he's still successful, that Minnesota would be a nice spot. But that's why the Kirk Cousins thing. I'm curious which domino falls first. Does Russ go first because he has basically the free agency first? Does Kirk go first because more money will be on the table? Like that's going to be a domino that affects the whole league, multiple teams, multiple fantasy
Yeah.
impact. Like that's going to affect the draft. So
Yeah.
I mean,
You have a lot of teams looking for for a franchise quarterback. Like, well, not
well,
different from most years, but what is different this year is that we not only expect 4 first round, we've got a plethora of free agent and trade available quarterbacks. I mean, guys like Justin Fields, we talked about Russ and Kirk
hell,
and
Baker Mayfield
Mac
might be a
Jones
free
on the
agent.
market.
What if the
Baker
Steel?
Mayfield.
What if the rumors are true and the Steelers are interested in bringing in Baker if he hits free agency?
Yeah, Baker looked real good last
All of a
year.
sudden, but then all of a sudden that Tampa Bay job becomes available. What happens in
Yep.
Tampa Bay? Does
I
another
do
free
think
agent
Tampa Bay
quarterback go
hangs
in
on.
there?
Yeah.
I would apparently they're far at this moment on this Friday evening. It is Baker and him apparently are far on a deal, Baker and Tampa Bay. So let's see what happens. But they just signed Mike Evans to a big time deal, which 1,000-yard receiver and plus
Yeah.
a healthy Chris Godwin now coming off the injury. White, great pass catching back. Although Todd Bowles has said that they want to get another back to complement them. They lost a little bit of injuries on the line, but still, I mean that's a job that Russell Wilson, if they got rid of Baker, Russell Wilson, I would love for him to go to Tampa Bay. Kirk Cousins might love to go to Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very
Oh,
fruitful spot. You got Godwin there as well. They've got other pieces there. I think everybody expected Tampa to just kind of fall off a cliff after Brady left there, but they've hung on and they really surprised some people last year.
I do want to, speaking of hanging on, talk about your boy, a guy you have invested a lot into in fantasy leagues, Calvin Ridley's free agency. Looks like the Jaguars will not be sacrificing that second round pick to bring him back. Where do you think his prospects go as free agency occurs?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for his career, he's going to have to take a little step back here. I do think he walks in as a number 2, a guy that can take the top off the defense and open things up
Still,
for weapons around. Uh, Steelers would be nice. I don't
oh,
think, but
wait, what
there's a team
you
like
we
Giants
lost
or
we
the
lost
Jets.
connection with you there, James. I have no clue what you just said. Yeah, the producer extraordinaire Justin chiming in as James struggles. What did you say?
You got me back now?
I believe so. What'd you say?
All right, let's see here.
As the stream falls
Yeah,
apart.
I'm sorry. I totally lost my train of thought.
Unbelievable. We talk about your boy Calvin Ridley not being able to take the
We
top off
were talking
defenses
about
still, you
Calvin.
know, better at a parlay than he is at being able to catch the football and to take the top off defenses still.
Yeah, well, he
Uh,
apparently wasn't very good at that parlay, but I think a
Christian
place
Kirk
like
seemed to have shown who he. I mentioned to producer extraordinaire Justin, who you heard chime in before. He was a owner of both Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, and I said the guy was Christian Kirk. He's the guy they paid. So, and Calvin Ridley now looks like maybe he falls in
yeah,
the rumors that the Jets might be interested as a second receiver. You know,
I like the Jets. I like the Jets, maybe
I
even the
mean,
Giants.
uh, I mean, he'd probably be the one on the Giants due to his size.
Oh, sure.
Although I think Mighty Mouse Wandale Robinson would be the best option now with Saquon Barkley likely gone off the team.
Yeah.
What are your perspective on Saquon Barkley and this free agency in the run game? I mean, like you were talking, this draft class not deep in running backs,
No.
but this free agency class it's deep in running backs. You got Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift is a younger back that teams might look at. Not as much tread on the tires, but he's had some injury history. What are there any you think teams are actually going to pay? I mean, Austin Eckler's out there. Like, you think they'll get more like that kind of deal?
Yeah,
AJ
I
Dillon
think
just got cut.
I think it's just a supply and demand issue. At the end of the day, these guys are just bodies, especially once they get to their second, third, fourth contract in the league. Um, I don't think any of them are really going to get that big paycheck that they're looking for.
Not even Josh or Saquon.
I don't think so.
What
I
about
think
Derek?
we'll see maybe 1 2 year deals. I mean, Derrick Henry's approaching 30, if not 30 already. I mean, it's hard to see them getting more than a couple of years, maybe 15 million guaranteed. I mean, what could we really expect with such little demand in the market for these guys?
I mean, 15 mil guaranteed. I think that's very. I mean, maybe 2 to 3 year deals with like 30 mil guaranteed. I think these guys would kind of hope for in something like that. I mean, Josh Jacobs has said he wants a 1 year, so what he'll take a 1 year, maybe 12 mil, 13 mil, go prove it somewhere, go try and run. I think a couple running backs are worth the value. Some running backs, like
Yeah.
Austin Eckler, probably not. Saquon, maybe you pay him. I don't expect the Giants to pay him, but maybe the
No.
Eagles or the Ravens. Hell, maybe if he doesn't want to make that money, then he honestly should just go to Kansas City and just go be their dog.
Yeah, and just go in. I
Yeah,
mean, what else
that's
does he need at this point? It will be interesting. The team that does get him is probably going to get a pretty good deal on him for the talent that he is. But he does have some injury history as well that I'm sure these teams are factoring in. So,
100%.
definitely a big
He's a
deal
back.
there.
A lot of tread on Saquon's tires going back to college. A lot of tread on some of these, and that's really where their value kind of is. That's why you draft them. But I mean, Bijan was drafted high, not used early on. Gibbs was drafted really high, not used early on. There is kind of the give and take on these running backs and their values, considering free agency. Maybe you go pay a little bit for a running back and a veteran running back. Running back you can I think Derrick Henry's going to get paid, man. Derrick Henry's gonna make a lot of money this year.
Yeah, what's the range you're thinking?
I'll say 15, 16 for him, which for a running back, I think
15?
that's really high.
That is really high.
I th-
I'd be surprised if we see that.
that's around. I think that's kind of where a running back I don't think Saquon will get there. I think because that injury history, but I think there
Yeah.
some team is gonna. I think there's gonna be a team that's gonna want Derrick Henry, and they're especially with this weak running back class in this draft, which
Yeah.
we will get into. We can kind of get into it now. I mean, we can get into these rookies and see. I mean, coming out the combine, there was some people were talking that certain rookies like Trey Benson could be like Brees Hall level guys. There's a reason why they don't have the clout. They don't have all that shine on them, all that NCAA records like Brees and Bijan. Like there were guys who put
Mm.
in years of time. I mean,
Which maybe that means there's going to be some value to be had.
they're late round backs, and there's gonna be like Isaiah Pacheco was found late. There's just not gonna be a Brees Hall level back. You're not gonna find that guy in these drafts. Maybe you'll find like a Kyron Williams who has come along in this where if you wait and you're patient, then maybe. So I know some people are hoping now that Joe Mixon's gone. on the Bengals that the Bengals Brown will now move up and kind of maybe have a big second year. Same thing with Tajay Spears in Tennessee. Like those are the
Right.
kind of backs that we're talking about. Most of this draft is filling out. But let's look into mock drafts. Let's take a look at this from Mock Draft Database. This is the first one. Obviously, many people pick Caleb Williams be the first pick. I mean, I would personally stick with Justin Fields. That's just me. I mean, this makes Caleb the number one guy in all dynasty leagues, though, because he's the number one pick and he's a quarterback, especially if you play Superflex 2 quarterback league. Like, are you sold though? There are some people who have knocked Caleb, said he's not special. Are you sold, James, as someone who has targeted Caleb and talked about wanting Caleb to in this rookie draft?
Yeah, for me, I think you can really go 1A, 1B with Caleb or Marvin. Because, I mean, if you're talking about the hit rates of a quarterback versus a wide receiver like Marvin, you know, as high as his ceiling is, he's almost a safe bet between those two. So I don't think you can knock anybody for taking Marvin 101. But yeah, Caleb going to the Bears and getting at some mocks show him getting a receiver as well.
With all
In
that drama
yeah.
though with Caleb, are you sold on him as a? Are you sold? Because there have some people that knocked him. Like, that he didn't run at the he did nothing at the combine. He doesn't want to take a test. He doesn't want to like this guy has been marketing and planning this out since he was like 15, 16 years old with his family to do this first overall, made in a lab. Is this what you're about, James, or are you thinking this guy is a little bit too much of a head case for yourself?
Yeah, I'm not listening to the noise here. I'm just going off of what we see and what we know with this dude.
and this dude is
Yeah.
and this dude is in one word, what would you call him?
In one word, what would I call Caleb Williams?
Yes, what would you call him?
He's just magic. He is
Magic.
just magic. Just
Uh,
makes it happen, pulls it out of a hat, and that's what wins in this league now.
he does thread the
He's
needle though a lot. He did throw a lot of
yeah,
interceptions at school. He did make a lot of big plays.
yeah.
I mean, Jordan Addison had a better college career with Kenny Pickett than he did with Caleb Williams.
Right. Well, Kenny was a prolific college quarterback. He was fantastic, and maybe we touched on Kenny a little bit already, and we'll stay away from him.
But if
But
you want to keep moving on to other quarterbacks, we can move on to a similar area to Pittsburgh, but Washington, where this mock has Jaden Daniels going at 2 over Drake May. Would you say that if Marvin's your 2 pick, that Jaden Daniels would be a 3 pick to yourself?
to me, Jaden Daniels and Drake May are the same guy right now for me.
Interesting.
They're right next to each other. I'm not really differentiating. You have the generational guy in Caleb,
Would you
as
put
well as
well,
yeah.
as you were talking before, if we look down on this list, because Drake May is 3, Malik Nambers is 4.
Mm,
You said you had Marvin at 2 because Malik Nambers is taken at 4. Does Malik Nambers become your 3 player off the board before those Jaden and Drake?
It's definitely possible. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals are taking Malik over Marvin, even though there is chatter that those guys are kind of 1A, 1B in this wide receiver class. But I do fully expect the Cardinals to bring Marvin home to Kyler. Um,
I would love to see it. I'm a
yeah,
Kyler owner. That would be
but
my dream.
yeah, even if you do flip those, even if you do have Malik going to maybe the Giants or a little further down, um, I still think you can take Malik over those 2 quarterbacks and Drake May and Jaden Daniels. There's always a bust or two. Sometimes they all bust in a quarterback class. I don't care how good they say it is.
I mean, I
Um,
would be really worried about taking the Washington. I'm worried about taking both the quarterbacks that go to the Patriots and
yeah,
Washington. Defensive head coaches, first time head coach in the Patriots, and the Patriots have not had a good history of developing guys as far as offensively. Now we're gonna ask them to develop a quarterback. If it's Jaden, was very good this past year, but also struggled at Arizona State when he played there. So before the transfer, would a bad situation change? Like a lot of people compare him to Lamar, and Lamar's first couple of years on the Ravens was very protected. They put him in successful situations. They didn't put him in. They ran the ball a lot. Um, and Drake, some people compare him to Daniel Jones. That's a bad. I think that's more of the school and area he's gone to, but that's a tough comparison to break away. If Malik Nambers is on the Cardinals or even goes to the Chargers, like this mock doesn't say, but goes 5 to the Chargers with Justin
Mhm.
Herbert, I would totally be interested in 5 in 3 taking them. But I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks with both Washington and New England situations. I mean, new regimes, you've got a new ownership who look to be a bunch of clowns in Washington. Obviously
what
suffering
what
a
what 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 are you calling
I-
them clowns? They're trying.
well, they're obviously suffering an identity crisis. That they come from basketball. How much do they really know about this world? They're the Washington Commanders. Not much culture there.
And he's gone again. We had another ting.
Questions with both these organizations. What does that front office now look like without Bill Belichick that they had in there for 20 plus years in New England?
How do you replace Bill Belichick?
You really don't,
Are
do
you
you?
betting that to be successful? Because that's really what fantasy is. You're
Yeah.
gambling on that to be successful.
And that's the thing, if I'm not getting Caleb Williams, do I really want to take a shot on a guy like May or Jaden Daniels when I can have an asset that I'm much more confident in Neighbors or Marvin Harrison or a guy like Brock Bowers? Uh, that I'm just much more confident in the hit rate, right?
All
Do I
right.
want to take the dart throw?
Since we're talking about where we would take guys, I think it's a good time to move on to the sleeper mock draft. Get that. So whenever Justin, our producer guy, gets that going, perfect. Sweet. So James said we did this earlier. James would take odds. I would take evens. So obviously, James has already said he'll select Caleb.
Excuse me, no. You're taking odds. I'm
I'm
taking
taking odds.
evens, evens,
I
evens, evens.
apologize. But just for sake, all right, I will take odds. He will take evens. I'll take Caleb right off the bat. It is 1. He's clearly obviously the first pick quarterback. You take him, especially in a 2 quarterback league. If it wasn't a 2 quarterback league, I would still take him. Generational talent. If you look at some quarterbacks at certain age, obviously you're probably really, really bad if you got the 1 pick. And if you're not in a 2 quarterback league, you're probably going to want a 22-year-old stud. First overall studs like Caleb don't come around every once in a while. Even next year, you're likely not going to get that. The best is probably going to be Quinn. And Quinn came out early. He's going to be special, but he's not as special as Caleb could be. Got to take Caleb first overall. James, as he said earlier, is going to take Marvin.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Yeah, we're in a lottery for our home league, and I'm almost really hoping for the 2 over the 1, so that I don't have to make this decision between Caleb and Marvin. It's almost certainly going to go Caleb 101 with the way the league is set up, and I'm going to have a nice, easy pick if I do get the number 2 pick with Marvin. It's really a no-brainer here. So what do you got for number 3?
I think just to stay with what we were talking about before, Malik Nambers, if he's going to get drafted in the top 5, either if he's a Charger or Cardinal, I mean, I really think there's a chance that all there's like going to be so many good receivers coming out this year that just the volume and everything like that, and especially in a PPR dynasty league, you're going to play a couple of them. This is really where you would take, but not, like, because Drake and Jaden aren't the generational quarterbacks that some people would want them to be. They don't Patrick Mahomes and those type of they all just don't grow on trees. Like James was saying before, you don't find 2 or 3 of them in the draft. There's usually only like one of those guys if you're lucky. You're probably not going to find it with these guys. So you go take the Dane wide receiver, Malik Nambers out of LSU. Simple pick. Now, James, you're up at 4. Who you're going to take the quarterbacks, or were you leaning towards Rome or Brock, who didn't participate in the combine.
Right. Yeah. So we are assuming tight end premium here. Is that correct?
Always assume tight end premium. We ain't no
Very
fools.
good. Yeah, this is definitely an inflection point here because you have those two quarterbacks, and at this point, those top tier prospects, the guys that I'm feeling really sure about, the two wide receivers and the quarterback are gone now. And so now it's hard to pass up these two quarterbacks that went 2 and 3 in the NFL draft. For me, I'll take the guy with the rushing upside, and that I think has a few more weapons around him in Washington, in Jaden Daniels, also from LSU.
I think that's pretty understandable. Jaden Daniels has the rushing upside. He can run it in. He can also throw it. He's a big play quarterback. Like we said, some people compare him to Lamar. Some people compare him to Justin Fields. I'm not one of those experts that can compare. I just listen and try and go off that. Would I take him at 4 over Rome or Brock? Probably not. Probably not. I would probably be very excited if I had 5 and this was the top 4, because I'm likely leaving if this is a tight end premium with the best tight end in this league. Well, in this draft, and likely going to be a best tight end in the league in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm taking Brock Bowers. This monster player. He is what you want your tight end to be. Reminds me a lot of George Kittle. Physical on the line, can block, can catch the ball, can be a red zone monster. I hear rumors he's going to be a Colts pick, possibly like AR-15 safety blanket. Unfortunately, I don't see the accuracy for AR, but the Colts love the tight end. Think about what Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods have done for the years. Brock Bowers is on a different level compared to them. If he landed on the Colts, easy top 4 player to me. But he'll go 5 to me right here, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I like the pick. Was definitely considering him there at 4. And still a lot of juicy options here.
Oh, 100%. This draft is deep.
6.
This draft is deep.
Yeah, still feeling really good about the options here. I've got Romo Duns, who in the mock draft we're looking at went to the Titans, which obviously is not a hot spot right now, with just Will Levis there. We've also got J.J. McCarthy going to the Broncos here
Oh,
with
you're
Sean Payton.
gonna look at pass over Drake May for
Yeah,
JJ
you got Drake May there too.
on the Patriots, like we said. Are you just trusting them, or is this like because we're in the mock?
they're
Where's JJ going in the mock?
JJ in the mock is going to the Broncos at 12.
Are you buying
And
in to the idea that that's a better spot than I would probably buy into JJ McCarthy over Drake May because of that spot?
certainly the prospect Drake May versus JJ McCarthy, you're going to take Drake May with all those measurables and what he did in college. But situation matters and where these guys go. I mean, we've seen over every year we see a terrible organization ruin a quarterback. JJ going to a guy like Sean Payton, in a really stable position, and we'll see if they hang on to their weapons.
Yeah, Sean Payton seems like a real stable guy.
He really does. Seems like a great guy. With that said, I'm going to lean on the draft capital here nonetheless and take Drake May.
I understand why. I mean, there's not any weapons there. Draft capital is really the only reason why you're taking him. I think that's like the worst spot anyway, because at least in Washington, you got Terry, you got some weapon, you got a running back. You're really hoping Ramondre is just a dog, and Hunter Henry's got to be like your best receiver. That's a tough spot for a rookie quarterback to land. I kind of hope they bring in a vet to just kind of like get through this year and kind of help him along. Like that'll be nice. So we're looking here at a ton of wide receivers now at 7, like a ton. We're looking at Roma Dunze, Troy Franklin, Brian Thompson Jr., Keon Coleman, Adonai Mitchell. There are certain guys I would lean towards in this pick. Probably draft capital wise, should probably just go with Roma Dunze here. Tough situation with Will Levis and that bad Titans offense, another spot where they're going to be bad. You hope that maybe Treylon Burks in the third year maybe gets it. Roma Dunes is a big play player, though. Will Levis has a big arm. That is a connection that I do think makes a lot of sense. If they were able to, that is Roma Dunze is the type of guy they want Treylon Burks to be. He is aggressive, he's big, he's fast. I personally did not like his Michigan tape. I thought he was getting held a little bit, and they obviously weren't calling it, but he wasn't breaking through. He wasn't drawing the calls, and those were good receivers, big receivers do. But the draft capital here, like James was saying before, you sometimes just got to lean on the draft capital. So that's what I'm going to do here at 7 and take Rome. If you are someone in this draft and you have a top 5 pick, I think you're very, very excited. If you are someone who has a 6 through 12 pick, you're going to get a really talented option to take. There's going to be talented players there. It's you got to kind of decipher which one's going to land in a good landing spot and figure that out. And that's kind of where I feel like Rome is. If he lands in a good landing spot to be successful, I think he'll be a stud. He was a transfer project. So 8, all those receivers, James. How do you decipher between these guys?
It's going to be tough, especially when you get down towards, if we're looking at this mock, we get at 28 Brian Thomas Jr. to the Bills, and the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy at the 32 pick. Obviously, the two most popular spots for the last 2 or 3 years with these late round 1 wide receivers. So we'll see if that actually happens. But those are 2 interesting options. But for me here, I think after this pick is where we see a slight tier break, and I'll scoop up J.J. McCarthy here.
Okay, going quarterback. I understand that.
Yeah, I think you get pretty good capital at 12th overall. You get a landing spot, a coach that's had success in the past, and an organization that has historically had some pretty good success. And so I do like it. I don't think it's a huge tier gap. You then get guys like Xavier Worthy, who just ran an all-time fast 40 time. Brian Thomas Jr.
I would say this is more of a need spot. Like if you need a wide receiver, perfect time, go grab one. If you could use a quarterback, go grab the quarterback, go get him. I think that makes perfect sense. That's really all you could really do there is go grab one of the quarterbacks. Since I'm up, are you sold on Xavier Worthy and that speed? That speed just would sell you on him, or because to me, I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a lot higher on that list to me. Adonai Mitchell is a lot higher on that list to me. Just because, and maybe it's the John Ross fear, but just because, or a Darius Hayward Bay, or Henry Ruggs, although that was a different issue entirely, I guess. Though, those speedsters don't always transition into the league. They all can't be Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, I think people get, not to be too punny, but they get caught chasing the speed. When really sometimes that speed is just better for the NFL offense and it doesn't actually translate to a lot of fantasy points like we're looking for. Sometimes they're just there to kind of stretch the field, and that's a tremendous asset in itself for an NFL team. And so a lot of time we get disappointment with these speedsters. You look at a guy like Jameson Williams, who everybody was juiced up on.
Exactly, 100%.
But yeah, like you said, you have Adonai Mitchell in this mock going to the Ravens at the end of the first. Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., some other wide receivers you mentioned. But which direction are you going here?
Well, like you said, a lot of these receivers are in the same tier. There's also a lot of quarterbacks that are in the same tier as well on this list. And where is Bo Nix and where is Michael Penix? Are they considered not first round talent in this? Obviously they're not in the mock. So that because this only has 32, would you consider taking a second round quarterback over one of those receivers that are taken, like an Xavier Worthy or a Adonai Mitchell or a Brian Thomas?
Yeah, for me, I cannot get a second round quarterback over these wide receivers, especially with these landing spots, which are really nice, and with the incredible talent that we're seeing coming out, just so deep. I think the back half of your first rounds, your early second rounds, are going to be mostly populated with receivers. until we start to see the running backs start to sprinkle in. But yeah, it's gonna be a heavy receiver class.
I think the Michael Penix, Bo Nix guys, uh, even like Michael Pratt later on and Joe Milton later on, those are guys who I would take flyers on later on in the draft. Obviously, probably not going to get in a situation to draft Bo Nix or Michael Penix unless they get drafted in the second round by like the Broncos. Like if the Broncos pass on a quarterback in the first, or like something like that, or maybe like the Lions decide to take another quarterback. Just to kind of like throw in guys to kind of throw in there. Right here, it's either a Donnie Mitchell or Brian Thomas Jr. to me. They are in a tier that is kind of by themselves. I could see if Keon Coleman was drafted in the first round. Was he where he wasn't taken in the first round? I didn't see him in this mock, so we're going to go off that. If he was taken in the first round, I could probably put him in there. I would probably take Brian Thomas Jr. because the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs ain't going to be there forever. And this man's a dog. This guy, he picks up speed at the combine. He caught a ball and picked up speed over 24 miles per hour. That's insane. That man's going to run through people. He is. I was talking to producer Justin behind the glass. He was. I was telling him that LSU has two receivers here that kind of look like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. I won't go into the other man yet, but this man kind of reminds me of DK Metcalf with his strength and his speed. I personally would take him.
Yeah, so for me here, I'm gonna stay in the wide receiver department, and I'm gonna grab the X, Xavier Worthy. I think here at the 110, you just can't go wrong. We talked a little bit about the speed and how sometimes that doesn't translate, but at this point late in the first round, you're getting incredible value. We know what Patrick Mahomes can do, and there's plenty to go around over there in Kansas City without a real clear star on the outside.
I would say if they take Xavier Worthy, I am a Rashee Rice owner, and I would be I would be very happy with that because I think Rashee Rice is the more complete receiver, while Xavier Worthy would be more the speedster type of deep ball type of maybe Sky Moore level guy, Mecole Hardman level guy, Jeremy Maclin level guy type of dude. While I think Rashee Rice has the more upside in that situation. But that just could be personally me. Maybe Xavier Worthy's Tyreek Hill with all that speed. At 11, considering the board and considering using the mock, kind of think you got to go with a Donnie Mitchell. He's got the draft value behind there. Zay Flowers is Zay Jones. Zay Flowers. He had his domestic issue going on. He seems more like like I was saying before, like a speedster, like a number two. Donnie Mitchell is a complete receiver. Could really be a more possession guy, get a lot of first downs, get a lot of red zone looks, really be a compliment to Mark Andrews in the red zone, help Lamar out a little bit because Odell didn't give him that this year. I think that's where if Donnie Mitchell goes into, he could definitely give him what Odell did give, like, on 100% even more. And that was so I would be leaning at Donnie Mitchell in this wide receiver heavy. Like there is nothing else here on this board, only receivers. Like what is the next best, like running back, like tight end? Like there is literally nothing.
Yeah, there's
All
too many
receivers.
receivers
All
to be
receivers.
passing up guys. Um,
Well, you have the next pick, dude. I don't
and
even know.
here I see Keon Coleman went over to the Patriots in this mock draft that I'm looking at, and assuming that they do get Drake May, I am gonna grab Keon Coleman,
Keon
wide
Coleman, I like
receiver
Keon
from
Coleman.
Florida
Good
State.
solid receiver.
Um,
Not as
and
much as I
now
like
that
the
we're
other guys.
looking at it, yeah, unless we get a JJ McCarthy or somebody else fall out of the first round of the NFL mock draft, I do think what we just drafted here could be pretty chalky. You can switch up the order a little bit between the quarterbacks and some of these back end wide receivers, but those first 8 picks or so, they're going to be locked in some sort of order.
Well, here's my question to you here, since you are the 12 guy. If you are at 12 and 13, are you taking two receivers back to back? with the board like this, or do you have to take a different position? Do you have to reach on somebody to handle your
I think
13?
it depends on your situation. If you do fall in love with a guy that a lot of people are calling Brees Hall, um, maybe you take a shot on that if he goes to a
Yeah, go get
situation
your guy.
you like.
Go get your guy.
But I think you got to take it as it comes to. A lot of these receivers may be hard pressed to be passing up, or look to move back because this class has so much depth that if you can collect a few pieces and get back in the later second round, even the early third, I think you're going to be happy with what's sitting there.
So what are you sitting there with at 13?
What are we sitting there with? Okay, yeah, I thought we were going to wrap it up there after the first round.
What? No. We should do 2 rounds because this is a
Two
draft.
rounds?
Yeah, this draft has like 24, 30 guys. There are late rounders.
Sure, and I think the snake draft is a bit silly for a rookie draft, so why don't we keep it, as it should be, and you can take the 201.
That's fair. You're right. So I would technically have the 13 pick here. So if you don't want to count it as a snake draft, since you think it's silly, I took Caleb Williams in the first pick. Having that ability, I would probably take, Franklin or Ladd. You know what? I like Troy Franklin. I really, really do. I'll take, but I think Ladd is flying up draft charts, and because of that, I'd take Ladd. I'd probably just take Ladd at 13.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick there. And
That's
since
filled in.
our home
The draft
league,
chart is filled in wrong. Producer Justin. No, just click on the guy. Stop it.
and since our home league is,
All
as
right, it worked. Good
we're
job.
very big. We're very big into the IDPs, and so I think I'll keep it in that context.
IDPs.
Within the larger context of this mock. And so I want to go with Jared Verse, edge out of Florida State, who went to the Bears at number 9. I like what they're building there. I like what they got around them. They brought in a pass rusher. They have a solid middle linebacker. Just signed their cornerback of the future. That's a nice defense to be inserted into. We got great draft capital there. We know how hard it is to find a solid edge guy. But yeah, Jared Verse there. I think it's great value.
Only offensive players. Although I do love the selection for IDPs. Like James said, playing a couple IDP leagues. I do like it. They are Matt Eberflus, if given time, will continue to build on that defense. That defense will get better. They need more. I don't know how he's gonna buy time because I don't know how this year is gonna go. If they're taking Caleb 1 instead of trying to give Justin Fields weapons, but that seems to be where it is. James, take an offensive player.
If it must be offense, I will go Bo Nix, who went to the Falcons. I suppose this mock assumes that he is. The Falcons will not be picking up a free agent quarterback, and in that case,
or they do, and he's going to sit behind like a guy like Russ or Jacoby Brissett.
Spend some capital on him. I'm willing to take a shot on him with all those weapons around him.
All right, so since you just took the last quarterback, I feel like the quarterback run you have to then take the last of the top 5. Where did Michael Penix go in that mock where you just saw Bo Nix went?
Michael Penix went to Las Vegas, actually directly after Bo Nix. I'm on Tankathon, by the way.
Yeah, I will take Michael Penix.
That works.
I also am an investor in AOC, thought this was legit for me, I would be very excited about that because it gives me backup plan for if AOC does not be the starter, then I will have Michael Penix be the starter. I think that'll be interesting for the flip of the O-line. He's an interesting prospect. I like him in the second round, especially where I got him. Not a first round pick for me, but that'd be nice. I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm going to go with Troy Franklin, who goes to the Giants, who are in desperate need of a guy on the outside who can provide something. In this mock, they don't end up grabbing their quarterback of the future, and so Daniel Jones is going to need some help, and he gets it.
Troy
in this
Franklin's a good receiver, good athletic receiver from Oregon, good player for them. I don't know how that. I don't know if he's a number one and on an offense with not a lot of offensive talent. I don't know if he's going to be able to shine like that on the Giants, but I do like Troy Franklin. I think he's a good athlete. Speaking on good athletes, wide receiver. I'd love to see this board here. Hold on. Oh, see, there's a couple. Do you have on that mock you were looking at? Is Jordan Travis on that board there, James? Was he actually taken? Because he's still in this mock. I assume he'll be a later round pick.
Yeah, not that I see. No.
As the clock is ticking on me. Scroll to tight ends, Justin, real quick. Yeah. Is Sanders taken in that mock? Because I'll probably end up taking Sanders there. And the reason for that is
he goes to the Dolphins in the second round.
Oh, what a time. Reason for that is I think that Brock Bowers has been so good for so long. Not a lot of people are giving Sanders a lot of look, and I think he's going to be an NFL tight end. He might not be the star that Brock Bowers is, but especially in that Dolphins offense, he's going to be a red zone machine. He's going to be that type of tight end that you can rely on to get you some red zone points, get you some first downs. If in a tight end premium league, that is, but like we talked about, this draft is deep. This could be like that could be a back in the first day. He could be Sam Laporta in that Miami offense. Like he could be a steal at that pick.
All right, so for me here, I am going to break the running back ice and take me some Trey Benson, who went to the Arizona Cardinals.
Some people would say he's Breece Hall.
Some people would. And, I think he injects some speed into that backfield, some explosiveness. They have had old men rotating in that backfield for some time now. And you get Kyler back for a full season. You get either Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors in there. I think that's going to be an exciting offense to be a part of.
That's fine. The only problem I would have with that is I think Jordan Brooks is a good prospect. I think Blake Corum's a good prospect. I think Marshawn Lloyd's a good prospect. I would say Will Shipley's okay. Brandon Allen's okay. I just don't think there's anything that really differentiates him. Maybe that I guess that spotting maybe change the tides. I wouldn't do that this early on, but I took it to I probably reached on that tight end a little bit there to get that. But here, if you're thinking about it going off since I'm back on the clock, can't go running back. I have to go receiver. There's just so much talent. Show me receiver, Justin, again. But do I want Xavier or Polk? That's the issue here. There's also Johnny Wilson, Roman Wilson. The problem is really
went to the Cowboys in this draft.
Yeah, so I was looking at that mock before. He could honestly be like a Brandon Cooks level player, but I don't want to reach on a Roman Wilson. Polk is a very good receiver as well. Roma Dunze took a lot of credit for him, but he was really good for Washington this year. I could see him being. I know Steve Smith's a big fan of Polk. I've read he could be a steal in draft. It's just so many good. Walker. Well, I've heard Walker's good. Johnny Wilson's got size. That's really the thing that everyone kind of goes on him. I guess for this mock's purpose, I would really be interested in Roman Wilson on the Cowboys, so I'll take him there. But there are like Polk. if Polk lands on a good offensive situation, like we were talking about, like a Miami or a Kansas City, he could easily be a steal of the draft. But I would probably lean, if we're saying Roman Wilson's the new Brandon Cooks, sign me up for a second rounder. That's great.
And since you mentioned Polk, I will grab Jalen Polk here, who went in the third round to the New York Jets to play
Oh, wow.
alongside Garrett Wilson.
As a Jet fan, I would be stoked. That would be awesome. Where does Brendan Rice go in that mock there, James?
I don't know if I saw him. No, I don't think I did.
So Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's kid, doesn't even get taken in the mock. Damn, that's a late round flyer there. All right, so then if that's the case, I'm going to probably take Blake Corum, the running back. I know I just said probably wouldn't lean, but I mean, I really just don't see much of a difference with the current receivers on the board. Blake Corum, good dog. Get you some in between. Probably going to be a red zone back. Probably going to be in between the carries type of guy. He could end up being like an Austin Eckler. He does have pass catching ability. Smaller guy. Could be a steal. Might as well take a flyer on him. Let's go, James. 2 more
All
picks.
right.
We'll end after
I
the
will
second.
grab Ricky Purcell, who went over to the Panthers in the third round. There's plenty
Interesting.
of opportunity there in Carolina. We'll see if Bryce Young can turn it around and he gets another weapon.
Well, SEC boy, a lot of people like Ricky. He thinks he had a solid combine. Better than some people say better than Keon Coleman. I think that's a interesting selection considering Johnny Wilson is there, who's a 6'6" monster. And I think if I'm going to take a flyer on a guy, that sounds like a solid flyer to take. I mean, these are second round flyers, but with rookies, they're going to take time to develop. A lot of people in scouting like Johnny Wilson for what he can become. I'll take on to that. I'll sign on to that with his size late in the second. Pick 23. Yeah, give me that. Give me a great athlete.
All right, and I will finish up with Braylon Allen, who goes to perhaps the sexiest running back spot in Dallas, with them possibly losing their running back
I would
Tony Pollard this year.
I would more hope that they would sign Tony Pollard.
See if Jerry wants to pay him.
See if they can then because I think Allen could end up taking that Zeke role. And then those two together, that was the best of Tony Pollard. That was the best of Zeke. If we're talking, because that's kind of what the running back position is. That is pretty much a steal. And pick 24 to get that guy, that would get Zeke level guy. I mean, not Zeke level talent, but production wise, at the end of that sign, that would be
a great offense. You're gonna have scoring opportunities. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's the whole takeaway of this coming out of the combine and taking what the information is that this draft, I mean, we're already in the third round here and we're going to stop. And there's still so much talent. Like we're in a league where there's only 4 rounds, there's likely going to be free agent talent. That's rookies that are going to be steals. Young guys who are not going to be drafted. And then we can always just take on to them. That's going to be a fun. But this draft is deep. This draft is really, really deep, especially at the wide receiver position. We're left how many receivers did we end up taking here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah,
some people say there's
draft.
I was just going to say, some people say there's 18 to 19 NFL wide receivers in this draft. So that means if that's the case, let's say that happens. The third round, and we only did take 2 running backs and 2 tight ends. Really, the 5 main quarterbacks kind of went off, but it's fantasy football. You're chasing touchdowns. That's kind of how it is. Look what happened with Brock Purdy. No one's ever going to let that happen again.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to take those shots.
All right, so that should wrap up this. This was a nice little quick episode of the off season. We'll probably come back in a couple weeks, break down some more after a couple free agents sign, probably the halfway point before the draft. How do you think this episode went, James?
This was very nice. It was a nice starting point to get a good
Get
baseline
back into the
of
swing of
our
things.
rookie picks. Yes, felt very good to be talking about rookies again. Yeah, and it's exciting, and we've got plenty more where that came from as
That's
we look
right.
forward to the draft.
That's right. Like and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube at Front Yard Trampoline Productions or FYT Productions, whatever it is. Follow us on Twitter at Mike Delarocca and James Ashby. Instagram too. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, all that social media stuff at Content Fantasy. Yeah. Signing off, man. Peace.
Okay.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.